Are we waiting on you?
Actually, you do the first line.
I know, and I said it. And then you just kind of, boom.
Okay. Well, I was waiting for that extemporaneous banter that always takes place before we actually start recording so that I could have a clip to put in there somewhere. But I guess that's not going to happen tonight. Nobody wants to extemporaneous.
Just like a bump in the night.
Okay, y'all ready?
My name is Mike Black. Yep.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, baby.
Okay.
Been ready. And we're live.
With Paranormal-Spirits.
We're sharing. Are we sharing again?
He doesn't like to share.
You don't want to share?
He doesn't like
I'll
to
do
share.
it if you want me to. And we're live with Paranormal-Spirits, the place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, things that go bump in the night, and I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. It's my wife, Alyssa Black.
Hello.
My best friend, John Burkett.
Hello.
And tonight we've got a great story about the Beckwith haunting, or nicknamed the Hell House in Connecticut.
There's a lot of hell houses, I feel like.
Yeah.
I keep hearing
But
this.
this is the Ed and Lorraine Warren
Hell House.
A lot of hill houses too.
There
is
are
a lot of
hill
houses.
houses.
I do. I can say that's true as well.
So we're going to take you on a spooky road tonight. Before we do that, I'm going to tell you about all the places that you can see us and hear us. So if you're listening to us on a podcast, you can come to YouTube and hear us at 3B Paranormal-Spirits. You can also go to our Facebook group, which is Booze with Benefits. We have Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. On all of those, we are paranormal_DASH_spirits. You spell out the dash. If you want to look at our website, we are at paranormal-spirits.com. And that's kind of a launch pad for us. You can get to any of our sites from there: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And we also have a little swag store called Boozy's Boutique, where you can pick up these really cool Boozy's koozies. We got trucker caps, dad caps, racerback tees, beanies, coffee cups, coffee mugs. We got the works. And this is the show about spirits. And before we start any show, we always start off with some spirits. So, John, can you reach that? Tell us what we're drinking tonight.
I can reach that. This
and I'll
is
pass this around.
Scarabus, Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, distilled on Islay.
He already has his. Okay.
I already grabbed mine.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Ooh. Fresh hint of Band-Aids.
This is a non-aged product, so we don't. And I did read a little bit about it. They don't disclose what distillery they're getting this from.
They're mixed.
Yeah, but they have their own. They just have. They've only been in business since 2019, so they don't have time to have product yet. Because you take really you're gonna take it'd be 10 years before they have
their own.
They have their own, yeah.
So I'm assuming this is probably a blend, maybe?
It's a single malt, so they're buying barrels from somebody, and if they're saying it's from Islay, then it's come from Islay. That narrows it down to about 8 distilleries.
Right.
But you could buy barrels from 2 different distilleries, I guess, if you're a blend.
Yeah.
But I can tell you who they're not buying barrels from.
Who is that?
The ones that don't sell barrels, like Lagavulin.
Right.
And I don't think Ardbeg sells them at Lefroy. I don't think the 3 on the south part of the island sell barrels. Not 100% on the other. No, Lagavulin doesn't sell barrels.
Right.
But so it narrows it down to Kalila or Balmore or Brooklotic or Boonahaben.
Yeah, John is obviously our Scotch expert.
It's probably Kalila that they're getting it from, because I know that's who provides the Islay Scotch for Johnny Walker Black and stuff like that. So that's a guess.
Okay, so
Smells like Islay.
I smell the sea.
I smell peat.
I smell
smell
Band-Aids.
A little iodine, a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not strong.
I don't get that richness, that strong smell that I get from like Lagavulin. Do you?
I have high hopes for this, though.
I do too. It comes highly recommended.
It smells a little more Lafroigy to me.
Does it?
Yeah. But I've never had Kalila, so I
Lafroigy.
it smells like Lafroig.
Smells like Lafroig, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get
Like
what he was
mermaids,
saying.
bathwater.
It's just funny.
Just making fun of
Mermaids,
Lafroigy?
bathwater. Yes.
Burnt tires, Band-Aids, and mermaids bathwater.
Yep, there you go. Okay. We ready? Salancha.
Slancha.
Slancha.
Tastes like Lafroig, dude.
Now, I'm not a Scotch expert like yourself. However, I would say that is a heavily peated Scotch.
Yeah, but it's got a very
good.
it's a
It's
very
a different peat than, say, Lagavulin or
it's not Ardbeg peat. I can
one
tell
of
you
my
that.
new favorites.
And it's not Ardbeg peat. It's not as heavy. This is more heavily peated than Lagavulin.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I do too.
And
I
it's
don't hate
more.
that at all.
The whiskey behind the peat is a little more fruity.
Mm-hmm.
Like pears or something. Not stewed rhubarb like they say. Although to be
Stewed
honest,
rhubarb.
I have never had stewed rhubarbs, I can't say.
I've had rhubarb pie. I don't know how the rhubarb was prepared for.
I
it
do
with the
like
pie.
a good rhubarb. Not gonna lie.
Doesn't it? Rhubarb mess with you. Look at that. You think that's going to be a vegetable,
Yep.
but then it tastes like a fruit.
And you got to cook it in a certain way because the stringies will.
Yeah, you don't
yeah.
want that in your pie.
So that's got decent legs to it. It's not bad. I think the mouthfeel is quite a bit thinner.
Oh yeah, it's
Then-
not like a 16-year-old.
No, it's not like
This
that.
reminds
It's a
me
little
of-
sharper too, to me.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Got a little edge to it.
A little bit.
I've been through several bottles of Lafroig, and let me tell you, that tastes like Lafroig.
That is very smooth, though. I don't dislike this at all.
I don't either. I think it tastes good.
I prefer the Lafroig peat to the Ardbeg peat.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's in one of the high, Ardbeg's more expensive expressions, but
So
this tastes like
I hadn't tried Lafroig yet, so we
Lafroig 10.
we have to get that on the show.
Yeah, there's not enough left in my bottle to do. So there's only about
Well,
that much
dang
left in the
it.
bottle. It's probably oxygen.
Dang
It's probably oxygen. It's probably been evaporating. Actually,
Yeah, probably all the alcohol's out of it by now. And
Yeah,
it's just
probably just peaty water.
peaty water.
It's truly mermaid's bathwater now.
Truly is. There's no alcohol left in it.
I approve.
I do too. I left a little bit of tequila in a decanter once, and it was just a tiny bit, not even quite a shot.
You can buy
And it
casks.
was, by the time I got to it, I don't think there was any alcohol left. I think it had all evaporated.
Oh,
out
really?
of it. Yeah.
I mean, I know that can happen. I don't think I've ever experienced it, but
It was in there a long time.
guess it wasn't a good tequila.
Thumbs up from me.
A definite.
This
I
is
like
kind
it.
of sweet, too.
That's
do
what
you-
makes
There's
me
a
think of
sweetness.
Lafroig. It's a little brighter, crisper, not quite as heavy as like a Lagavulin.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a peated Brooklotic.
Do you like it?
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah, I do too.
I mean that's the same color.
Thumbs up from me. Thumbs up from
yeah.
you.
It has a really cool little logo too that I really like.
Yeah, I really like the bottle. The bottle looks cool as hell.
But there's a whole explanation of what all that gold stuff on the bottle is on their website.
Does it stand for something?
Well, the brand creates a sense of mystery and discovery through the tagline, "Only those who seek shall find."
So, in other
No
words,
kidding. Well, you're not
it's
going to
a
find anything else you're looking for.
it's a mystery.
And through the intentionally ambiguous symbols incorporated on the label.
Okay.
Ambiguous.
The look and feel draw inspiration from the work of Isla-born John Francis Campbell, who created the Sunshine Recorder, a device that tallies the hours of sunshine in a day as well as creating a vast collection of Celtic folk tales. So I could see that.
Yeah, I see the.
But then
Celtic
they named
influence.
it a name that means a rocky place in Old Norse.
Okay.
It's good. What's the price point on it?
There you go.
Do you remember? I'm trying to remember. I want to say it was about $40 a bottle. 45 maybe.
46% ABV.
Yeah.
Which is what it should be.
$37.99.
That's a good price.
Yeah,
for
that's $40
about
$40 a
40.
bottle. Yeah.
It's a good price for this. Yeah, Lefroy or Ardbeg, they're gonna set you back.
It's gonna be more.
55, 60
Yeah.
bucks for.
Cool. I found a drinkable Scotch for sure.
You did. That's good.
Good
That
job,
was a
Mike.
good recommend. Wasn't
Yeah, it
homie
was.
that recommended that?
It was.
This is a total.
A total.
Yeah.
He said
Yeah.
hands down that's his favorite.
We're not sponsored by them, by the way.
But
yet.
he 100% supported it, and I agree with him. Not
Yeah,
so
it's-
much on his tequilas, but this one.
Yeah, he's got it going on with the Scotch. He's right. Y'all ready to talk about the booze, the BOOS?
The Hell House.
We are going to talk about the Hell House. At least that's the nickname for it.
It's fitting that I'm wearing my
Yeah.
One
you're-
among
ghost shirt
many.
today.
So this is we're going to talk about the Beckwith family, and we're going to talk about Seymour, Connecticut. So it seems like everything's haunted in Connecticut. I don't know why you have the haunting in Connecticut, and then you have
Nobody ever wants you to see less Connecticut. They want to see more Connecticut.
Yeah, so it's so what you got the Baker family there, and you got the Snedekers, and then now you have the Beckwiths. So Seymour, Connecticut started off as a little farming settlement that turned into an industrial town in the early 19th century. It's known for its scenic beauty and its sense of community, blue-collar living. So I don't know if anybody's checked the prices.
It didn't look blue collar.
Yeah, it didn't look
Google
blue-collar to
Street
me
View.
either. It looked pretty
A little
bougie.
expensive.
It did look a little expensive, especially for Connecticut, because I think the housing is a little more expensive there than
Yeah,
it is
well, it's
here.
all the New Yorkers buying
I'll say it's the East Coast, isn't it?
houses so they don't
Yeah.
have to live in the city. The commuting New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Like a sleeper type.
So anyway, so Connecticut's got a rich history with these battles that took place between the English and Dutch settlers and the American Indians, and I'm reading it directly from what I pulled off the internet, so I know I can say that. But they literally spilled gallons of blood over this whole state during the war. And the Connecticut colony officially declared war against the Pequot Indian tribe on May 1st, 1637. The war's key battles actually ran from 1636 through 1637. But 1637 officially marked the start and conclusion of the Pequot War.
Peacock?
Pequot. This conflict quite literally bled beyond the chronological markers. And what?
I just happened to pull up the real estate because I was not a part of that conversation that y'all had earlier.
Yeah, okay. So.
Yeah. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,800, so 1,900 square foot home for $377.5.
That's not bad.
Just posted 57 minutes ago.
Well, that's not too bad, honestly.
No, not in Yankeeville up there. It's usually pretty
Here's another
expensive.
one that's 1,100 square feet for $350.
Well,
Oh, well, that's pretty bad.
yeah, that is pretty bad. And think about the square footage. That's actually pretty expensive.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
bad.
so it's up there.
So anyway, we know this kind of trauma from war and all that can
And real estate prices.
and real estate prices can really mar the land and you know all the blood spilled on the land and everything.
That's what you're paying for.
Is that what it is?
The history.
The extra blood.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
for the hauntings.
Yes.
Yeah. So in the summer of '98, the Beckwith family of 5, they're in search of a new home, and it's Sean, Bonnie. They got 2 teenage daughters, Frances and Jennifer. Frances being the oldest, Jennifer being the younger of the 2 sisters, and their young son Jeremy. And they're out driving through the countryside, and they're looking for a place to live. They've got a little extra money now. Bonnie is a nurse. Sean is heat, air conditioning guy. HVAC. He does that. And they're doing better for themselves. They want to get a bigger house out in the country. So they're driving around and they find this home and they're just instantly drawn to it. Oh, we got to have this house.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah. Happens, right? So, yeah, very similar, actually.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Snedekers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That then they find out was a funeral home. Yeah, that one.
Right. Okay. So this home, it's been abandoned for a year. But it's listed and it's on the market at a low price, so it just seems too good to be true. And what do we know about any kind of house that shows up on our podcast? If it's too good to be true,
it is.
It is.
You're gonna share your room with a ghost, or
that's right.
Or it comes with extra.
It comes with extras, like extra friends.
Absolutely
extra
right.
Even.
Built-in friends.
So the family meets with the real estate agent. They're excited. They're just blown away. This house is beautiful, except for Frances, the oldest daughter, and she goes, "Oh, no. I'm not even going in this house. This house is evil." That's what she said. Now, this is
an empath?
I don't know. It could be that she's a histrionic teenage girl and they're making her move from her hometown where all her friends are.
And it's ugly.
Into this new place, and it's ugly, and it's out in the country, and she may not care for that. So
it's not ugly. However, whenever Google Street View went through there the last time, nobody had maintained that yard in a while. It was looking pretty rough.
Just put them out there on Front Street, John. So
if you ever see this and you own that house,
mow the yard.
Yeah, mow the yard.
Machete, it's weed eaters, lawnmowers, big time.
Anyway, so Frances is saying, "No, this place is evil. I can't go in there." So Bonnie, her mom, is like, "Look, we got to have a place. It's got enough rooms. It's a large house." And she's saying, "This is beautiful here. Let's just go take a look at it." So she talks her into it, and they get inside. And this is a 19th century home. And they walk through it, and both parents are just in love with it immediately. This is great. This is what we need for the kids. It's out in the country. We're out of the city. Jeremy loves it. Jennifer loves it. Frances still doesn't, she's not too keen on it. But so they put it to a vote. The whole family votes again, and guess who's voted out? Frances. So they decide they're going to buy the house. So the family moves in, and shortly thereafter, they believe this is going to be a new start for them, start fresh, and it's going to be wonderful, right? And they actually, after they get their own space, and Frances realized, hey, I got my own room. I don't have to share it with my sister anymore. This is pretty cool. So they all pick their own rooms, and they get settled in for their first night. Very first night, Jeremy, their son, is awakened out of a sound sleep to a loud banging in his room. So he looks all around the room and sees nothing. Then he begins to hear these voices whispering to him from all around him. It said it's just like it was not just coming from over here. It was like everywhere, right? So boy is scared shitless. He runs in there to his mom. Mom, hey, all this is going on. So Bonnie, she's a little freaked out too because, new house and all that. And she says, well, new environment. It's a big drafty house. So she thinks that's a reason her son is scared. She gets him calmed back down, takes him to his bedroom, tucks him in, and she finds his little flashlight. He's got this little flashlight, has 3 different colors on it. And she tells him if he feels scared, if he thinks there's something in there going to get him, just turn on the green light, and any monsters that are in there will be scared away from the green light, just like the Green Lantern.
I don't think that works.
No?
Right. So Bonnie may have been full of it, but she figured, this is going to work with Jeremy. Anyway.
Parents never believe.
I know, right? So anyway, she gets him tucked in, and he's fine. Later that night, Jeremy gets waking back up, loud banging noises in his rooms again. He grabs his little flashlight, that scares off monsters, and he starts shining it around the room, and it doesn't scare off the monster. There's this huge shadow figure in the room with him. Jeremy screams, dives up underneath his sheet with his little protective light, and he's sitting there shaking and, just scared to death. And then the sheets get pulled off. Sheets fly across the room towards the window. He screams, and he runs in there, tells his mom, of course. So this happened just about every night for weeks. And I mean, night after night, and it was always around 11 o'clock. So the next one to get jacked with was Jennifer, the younger daughter. So one evening she's in there in front of this big mirror in her room, and she's brushing her hair out, and she hears the sound of these whispers, and they're coming from behind her. When she turns around, she is met with nothing but silence. She sees nothing, but she feels as if she's being watched. And she's not wanting to get too scared, and she thinks, okay, you know, I'm imagining things, you know, because, you know, this is this big spooky old house, you know. So she writes it off, and later in that night, as she's sleeping, she is jolted awake, but not from a banging. She is jolted awake because her whole bed is shaking and vibrating. And literally,
you put a quarter in there.
Is it one of those you put a quarter in?
I don't know. It may have been one that you could put the quarter in, but it didn't say that. And so at first the bed is just shaking and vibrating, and then she said it felt as if someone were underneath the bed and punching up through the mattress into her back. So she jumps out of bed, slips, falls in the floor, and when she falls in the floor, she can see underneath the bed. She looks underneath the bed, and there's nothing there.
Oh, I was going to say,
you
glowing
never
red
look
eyes.
Under the bed.
She looked under the bed. There's nothing there. Anyway, she thought, okay, nobody's going to believe me. I'm just going to keep this to myself. And so she moves the bed in the room into a different position, and thinking this will maybe solve this issue, right? So I don't know what makes your bed vibrate that you can move it to another part of the room. It doesn't happen, but that's what she did. So now this thing, it's harassing two of the children, right? Okay. 2 nights following Jennifer's initial experience, she's laying in bed, talking on the phone with a friend, and suddenly the bed starts shifting around and moving in the room.
No.
And she's so scared she can't speak. Her friend's calling out her name. She's not answering. It's almost like she's frozen. And her friend just continues, you know, trying to talk to her. And suddenly the shaking, it stops. And her anxiety is just like through the roof. She's freaked out. So the following morning, Jennifer just can't take it anymore. She leaves out of her bedroom to go find her mom. Well, her mom is out in the garden, and she's pruning some bushes in the courtyard. She tells her mother that her bed was moving on its own and shaking, and she was terrified. Now, Bonnie, the mom, you know how parents just don't believe, right? Mm-hmm. Bonnie thinks,
oh, honey,
baby, you just had a bad dream.
Just the house settling.
It was the house settling. So Jennifer starts crying. And so, you know, this just kills Bonnie. And she calls a family meeting, says, hey, look, I want to have a family meeting because Jennifer thinks that she's had these strange experiences in her bedroom. And she asked the family, has anyone else been having any of these strange experiences? Well, evidently that's all the prompting they needed, because the whole family just opens up.
All of us, yes.
Everybody's been having something happen, right? And it's various experiences, the entire family. And Bonnie said later during an interview that when something strange happens to you, you try to rationalize it. You try to write it out. But when we had this meeting, as everyone was sharing their experiences, it became far too much to be a coincidence. Obviously, something's wrong with this house. And so the Beckwiths are worried to death. They don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to deal with it. So after some brainstorming, Bonnie remembers the names Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh, okay.
And she recalls seeing something about the Amityville investigation and their involvement with it.
What year was this?
This was in 1998.
Oh, it was pretty recent.
Yeah. So anyway, she's lost my place. Let me get back here. The Warrants. Okay. She recalls seeing something about the Amityville investigation. She reaches out to them thinking, this has got to be my best bet. I'm going to try to get through to him. So she gets their number somehow. I don't know how that would, you look them on the phone book or what, but anyway, she gets a hold of Lorraine Warren. Now, they said that they would come out. Jennifer, the younger daughter, she's the one with the shaky bed. She's like, these guys aren't going to be able to do anything, but she's willing to give it a shot. Anything to be rid of this thing that's shaking her bed in the middle of the night. So anyway, Bonnie gets a hold of the Warrens. They come out that very evening to speak to them. Now, at this point, the Warrens, they're like the most famous ghost hunters ever, probably. And at this point, they'd been investigating for 30 years. And by now, they have some infamous cases to their credit, And so anyway, upon greeting with the family, when they get there, Lorraine does her thing and, walks the house, prior to really talking to them. And as she's walking through the house, she said it was as if something felt like it was smothering her, just this very oppressive feeling. And she said it was a horrible experience and very uncomfortable. And I can't imagine living there. So excuse me. So Lorraine makes her way back to Jennifer's room where the shaking bed was. And she is stopped in her tracks by this flashing image in her mind. And it's the image of this demonic creature. And she felt like that room was the origin of this thing. That's where it was coming through into the house, was through that room. And she felt like that there had been many instances of violence that had occurred right there. So shortly after this, she would conclude her walkthrough and she'd meet with the family, to tell them what she felt like they were dealing with. And her conclusion was that the home was infested with a very strong demonic entity. So Bonnie and Sean Sean, the husband, initially discussed moving out. The Warrens advised them against this. They said, look, if you move out, you get in your car and you leave this very moment, these things could very well follow you to wherever you go. We've seen that in other, stories and accounts of people leaving, trying to get away from something like that, and it just follows them to the new place.
Right.
So
because it starts to haunt them and not the place.
It happened to the Smurls when they left, Mm-hmm. So they didn't really have a choice. They were just going to have to stay and fight this thing. And the Warrens told them, we need to gather some more evidence to see what we're dealing with. That way we'll know how to deal with it. So they suggested that everybody keep cameras by their bedside, and any time that they felt like something was there, or they saw something, or they heard something, just snap a picture and maybe they could catch something. Okay, by this time it was like November. And Bonnie's mother had arrived to visit with the family for Thanksgiving. And of course they tell her this is what's been going on, and we just want to warn you, basically. But she, it's Thanksgiving, she wants to be there with her family, so she stays anyway. And she's a very upbeat, happy person, known for her rambunctious sense of humor, and having someone with a that happy-go-lucky attitude in the house. They felt like it, this might help, and this might be what we need, just to brighten our spirits for a while. And so they spent the day when she arrived, talking and hanging around the house, and preparing for Thanksgiving the next day. And as Bonnie's mother went to bed that night, went to her room for that evening, she took her medication. She was going to watch some TV. So she's sitting on the bed watching TV, and it suddenly turns off. And thinking perhaps it was going out or something of that sort, she clicked it back on and continued to watch her program. After a bit, the TV shut off again. This time, in the reflection of the black screen on the TV, she sees standing in the corner of her room, 3 entities. So she's like, and she turns and she looks, and there's nothing there. And so this freaks her out so badly that she's like, I can't stay. She said that every hair on her body was standing on end as if electricity had permeated the air. And so the next morning, she leaves out. And so the next thing, Jennifer takes it upon herself to take photos of the room. This is where her grandmother was going to stay. And so the house is about 70 degrees. She gets into this room, and it feels like it's freezing. You can see the breath come out. Anyway, she starts snapping photos, and then she gets out of there. Several days later, the Warrens arrive for a second time. This time, they bring the crew with them, and they start a proper investigation of the home. And among the crew was a psychic medium by the name of Lee. Now, Lee's job, she was going to try to make contact with these entities and figure out why they were there. So the Beckwiths have arranged for their son Jeremy to stay with nearby relatives, but their two teenage girls are allowed to stay and observe the investigation right alongside the crew. I think that's nuts. I think if you got family, get your kids out of that situation.
I mean, Zach and the gang always at least had the family around for part of it, for the initial walkthrough and that initial investigation. But then the lockdown, they don't.
Yeah, and they get them out. Well, I'm saying if you got kids there, though.
I'm not trying to bring them into it.
No.
They're already freaked out.
Yeah. So maybe they were excited because, it's the Warrens. By now, the Warrens are famous in 1998. They've already had they had Amityville, they had the Smurls, they had the Snedekers.
The Nun.
Huh? The Nun, yeah.
The Conjuring.
Anyway, so they're famous. So, the kids may just want to be hanging out because here's, all these investigators doing that stuff. Yeah, it might have been cool,
Yeah.
Anyway, so the kids are going to hang out. At first, they don't see anything strange in the photos that they've been taking. And so the family starts sharing their photos with Ed and Lorraine, and they're seeing these. Lorraine finds one of Bonnie's pictures, though, and it has some kind of... Bonnie thought it was just a glitch in the film, but Lorraine Warren felt it was demonic and that she had actually caught a picture of this demon in the film. And not just any demon, but this was a high-level demon.
From the picture, she could tell that?
She could tell that from the picture. But, Lorraine is supposedly an empath, so... And, but there's always that with Ed and Lorraine and their stories. There's always the kind of, that's kind of.
Is it always a demon? Come on, Zach. Is it always a demon?
Well, and
he's a demonologist, so I feel like he feels like everything is. And like it's, that.
I mean, I hate to say this, but it's good for the museums, good for business, if everything is a demon.
And I'm not saying that's what it was, but. Anyway, so.
But you're not saying that's not what it was.
I'm not saying
either.
That's not what it was either. But I'm just saying that this is what was reported. Did you hear that Scottish hello?
I sure
think
did.
John just opened up that bottle again for me. Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
So the family is just taking all this in, and they're.
Don't burn yourself.
Nah. So, and as they're talking, all of a sudden this Lee starts shaking. And
the what is shaking?
Lee, the medium.
Oh, okay. I thought you said leaf. I'm sorry.
Lee.
Lee. Okay.
Lee, lay, whatever. She starts shaking and trembling. Well, somebody who knows the protocol with her takes a pen and puts it in her hand and a piece of paper. And
she's doing spirit writing.
She does the automatic writing. Yeah. So she starts writing and scribbling and. So Lorraine said, now for somebody to be doing an automatic writing in a house that we believe has a demon in it is especially dangerous because you're opening yourself up to be possessed by this thing.
I saw Cindy Kaza do automatic writing sitting at the well inside Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah? Was it pretty cool?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't.
Did she get anything?
Particularly dangerous.
Did you get anything?
I don't. It's been a while since I've seen that.
How would it seem dangerous if you can't see them?
Portals to Hell on Jack Osbourne's show.
So anyway,
I think the automatic writing thing is interesting.
I do too. It kind of scares. It's kind of like a Ouija board. I don't think I would try it.
I don't want to try it. I don't want to open myself up.
You literally would be allowing something to use you as a vessel to.
I would just be right, like boobs, or something. Oh my God. Or just be like
scratch, watermelon. So anyway, she starts doing this automatic writing, and when she's finished, the shaking becomes uncontrollable, and so they take the paper away from her and they read what it says. So the paper reads, "Get out." And that's repeated several times. Get out, get out, get out. Along with a final line, "You don't belong here."
She could have read,
no. So everybody in the room is freaked out, but especially the Beckwiths. They're like, "Oh my God, we got to get out of here." Not only does this thing...
It's painted.
Yeah, not only does this thing want to scare us, because it's been scaring them, but, it hadn't really tried to hurt them or anything. And they are concerned that this presence that's in the house really wishes to harm them now.
Yeah, if it really wanted to,
it could have already.
Yeah,
if I'm a ghost and I don't like these people, I want them out, and some psychic comes in, I got a chance to what I'm going to say, get out.
But how many times have we heard about people have a haunting and then a medium shows up and it pisses the spirits off for whatever reason? You
hear that a lot.
It's pretty common, actually. So anyway, this chick, the medium, is very mentally and physically taxed afterwards. And so it's that time of the night where everybody's going to part ways. So the Warrens and Lee and some of the crew leave. Now, 2 guys stay, 2 investigators. They choose to stay overnight and they collect additional data. And they set up multiple cameras and microphones, but they reserve most of them for the room where Jennifer normally was. The family, of course, sleeps in the living room now because everybody stays together as a group. The kitchen becomes the main hub where the investigators...
command center.
Yeah, the command center. So they're in there in the kitchen, and they're talking to the investigators as they're watching their screens. They're monitoring everything. Suddenly, Bonnie loses her breath as if she's frozen, and felt like, she described it later as something very cold passed through her very soul. And the family's trying to figure out what's taking place. Jennifer goes in to comfort her mother, and she's overtaken by the very same experience. Shortly after the incident, the 2 investigators that were staying there overnight begin to pick up these unnatural noises originating from Jennifer's room. The noises that they heard were the sound of flapping, like wings, and it sounded like multiple birds.
Mm-mm. See, there I go. I'm out. I don't like birds.
I don't like birds.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. The room is completely sealed up. The windows are shut, doors shut. Nobody's in there, but there's these flapping sounds like birds.
Only wings I want to hear are wings hitting that fryer.
Oh, my gosh.
So it goes from this flapping sound to these banging noises. And it's not confined to the room. It travels throughout the house. And it's as if the description was that it's coming out of the walls. It's not coming from the next room over. It's in the walls. And then it moves into the floors and the ceiling as well. And they can feel it from underneath their feet, like it's hitting the floor underneath their feet as they're sitting in the kitchen. And so these 2 would make their way back to Jennifer's bedroom where the activity was originating from, and they began to ask a series of provoking questions, hoping to interact with the entities present to try and decipher if the haunting was intelligent or not. After asking multiple questions, 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no, they were soon answered. Time and time again through their inquiries, they believe that there are 2 human spirits in the home and 1 non-human spirit, basing the knowledge off of previous cases they had worked on. They believed that this entity was attacking and keeping 2 human spirits from passing on. And, that was the case in the Smurl, where there were three spirits and then 1 demon. The demon was controlling the spirits and not allowing them to pass, etc. And they also believed if they could get the demon and get it out, that the other 2 spirits would.
So this non-human demon.
Yeah, that the other spirits would be able to pass as well.
Okay.
And so anyway, this activity continued all night long until daybreak the following morning. So the researchers take their findings to the Warrens, and together with the original crew, Lay included, they would return 2 days later to attempt to make contact with the human spirits. So the Warrens are made aware of the strange experiences Bonnie and Jennifer had shared, as well as the sounds and responses and the convictions of the 2 men who had stayed overnight to document this. So they show back up. Lee begins to shake again. She begins to furiously write as Ed Warren began to ask the spirit coming through her that she was channeling, why was it here? What did it want? And he also asked the year. What year is it? As soon as he asked the question, Lee suddenly stopped writing and dropped the pen. Then she answered him in a voice that was not her own. A deep and raspy voice replied to Ed and said, "Why are you questioning me?" And then it unceremoniously told Ed to shut his mouth. So I don't know if she said shut the fuck up or what, because it didn't specifically say, but she told him to shut up. So as soon as she did this, she stood up, flung the chair backwards as she's standing up, and takes this solid, heavy oak table, and evidently she's a tiny little person, and she shoved this table into Ed's stomach and presses him all the way up against the wall and holds him there.
I assume that their camera crews were recording all of this, right?
I'm sure that there were. But she pushes him all the way against the wall, pins him there. It takes 3 grown men to hold Lee back from continuing to jam the table into Ed. And so several minutes later, she finally returns to her normal self. They let her go. And after making sure that Ed was okay, of course, the group looks to see what was written on the notepad. They read the names Anna and then George Robertson, as well as a partially written year of 1880, and then it was indistinguishable after that, but 1880 something. So when everything settled down, the Warrens and the crew left for that night. The family slept together in the living room as a single unit, as had become their practice. And the Warrens had told them, they said, the only way that you're going to get through this, you're going to have to face it as a family. You're all going to have to stay bonded and banded together to fight off this thing. So they slept well for the rest of the night and didn't have anything else happen. The next morning, Jennifer and Bonnie go to the local library. They're going to try and research the names that Lee had written down. Next logical step, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So they get to reading through the property records dating back to the 1800s. They find a man named George Robertson, who owned their very same property and bought it in the year of 1888. So they felt like that this proved that Lee was legit,
right? And
now they have some real concrete information to work with.
Is his wife's name Anna, or his daughter?
They, I'll get to it later, but they actually never found anything about an Anna.
At least in property records,
no, not in the property records.
Had men.
Oh, that's right.
Back then. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it would have been listed under his name.
Women could have no such thing.
I mean, y'all weren't even allowed to vote back then.
Yeah.
Suffrage was much later.
Just remember that that man gave you the right to vote.
All right, buddy.
And look what they did with it.
I know, right?
Oh my.
No, I mean, but they never found anything about Anna. So anyway, they said they go to the next thing they do is they go to a graveyard that's like 10 minutes from their house. And the first gravestone they read, they walk in and boom, there it is. George Robertson, born 1860, died 1927.
Did they dig him up, salt and burn his bones?
Drive a salt or a stake through his heart. I don't know.
Well, you got to salt them and then burn them. That's what the Winchesters taught us.
Yeah, you're right. Because that's legit. And so anyway,
worth a shot.
Yeah, right. They worked further to try to find out more about George's life and discover additional information, but never found anything. And the name Anna, but nothing was ever found out about Anna. After the family found the gravesite, and I think this is interesting, but after they found the gravesite, the family got a small reprieve of a few days, no activity. Remember, this is between Thanksgiving and Christmas now. So it's almost Christmas time, and the kids are all in Frances's room, the oldest daughter, and one of the doorknobs starts jiggling and shaking. So the two girls see this, and they don't say anything because Jeremy's in there with them, and they don't want to freak him out, right? Well, then suddenly all the doorknobs in the room, the closet door, the bathroom door, everything's shaking at the same time. And because when they first heard it, they thought, well, it's just our mind playing tricks on us. And then this happens, and then the doors are just rattling in their frames, and it's freaking them out. And so they all grab Jeremy, and they run out of the room, run to Bonnie, and tell her what's going on. She calls Lorraine Warren, who arranges to have a priest come out and bless the house. So the priest arrives several hours later with Lorraine Warren in tow, and they bless the house. 2 days after the blessing, Bonnie gets this compulsion to draw. So just drawing the same thing over and over and over. And she gets getting these flashes in her head that she's just got to get out on paper, and it's a tree. She keeps drawing a tree. And this compulsion gets worse and worse, and suddenly she's overcome with sorrow and like she's in mourning. Bonnie believes that she is being influenced by Anna. She thought that Anna had experienced the loss of a loved one, and it just broke her. So as she's drawing this paper, she's basically crying the whole time. And all this is going on. The family continues to sleep in the living room. They're not getting any sleep hardly. And the anxiety and the stress is just starting to take its toll. So Bonnie reaches back out to Lorraine Warren, and Lorraine believed that the blessing had unfortunately not cleansed the home entirely, but rather just wounded or pissed off whatever demonic entity was there. And given enough time, this thing would get its strength back and would come back even angrier than before. And her timing couldn't have been better, because it was that night the family was laying in the living room. They're drifting off to sleep, and a book flies off the shelf at them. And then another one, and then another one. So these things are just flying at them across the room. And this went on for several minutes. There was a vase that was broken that flew off the shelf. So Bonnie calls Lorraine again. Lorraine tells Bonnie that she had already contacted the local archdiocese and had been in contact with the priest, who was already preparing himself to come to perform the exorcism, but it was going to be 3 more days before he could get there.
What's up? Is it on the house, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Exorcism on the house?
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Yes.
You do the minor rite of exorcism on an inanimate object?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So the priest, he needed 3 more days to prepare, because he's got to fast, he's got to confess his sins, he's got to be pure when he goes in to perform the exorcism. Well, at 3 days, that puts the exorcism, the rite of exorcism, the day after Christmas Day.
Boxing Day.
So they decide to wait it out and not leave the house because they were going to go get a hotel. They said, screw it, we're out, we're done. And so Bonnie, all of a sudden, she has this feeling she needs to isolate and start drawing again. And except this time it's not a tree. This time she draws a pyramid. And to one side of the pyramid, there's these heavenly rays coming down out of the sky next to the pyramid. On the other side, there's this raging storm that's going on. And coming towards the pyramid, walking towards it, are 3 spirits, is the way it was described. So these 3 spirits are walking towards the pyramid. And so in the midst of this drawing and isolating, she receives a call from Lorraine and explains to her what she's being compelled to do and what she feels like she needs to do. Lorraine says, you need to stop. She said, that is the spirits that are channeling through you. And you need to stop immediately because you're going to open up a door and you might not be able to close it. So she stops, even though she has these intrusive thoughts she wants to draw. Following day is Christmas Eve. Bonnie's mother has worked up the courage to visit them again. As she arrives and talks to the family, not having seen them since Thanksgiving morning when she bolted the first time because she was scared, she suddenly falls ill. She gets a temp that runs up over 100, and it shows no sign of slowing down. So they take her to the hospital. Suddenly she has this heart condition she's never had issues with before, and the doctors find that she has this irregular heartbeat, and they're concerned about her, so they decide to keep her overnight. Now, while they're doing this, the oldest daughter, Frances, is out running Christmas errands, last minute shopping, make sure you get some Scotch tape, make sure you get some paper, that kind of stuff. She's coming back to the house, and as she's coming back to the house, car on the other side of the road runs wide, head-on collision. She wasn't hurt, other than minor injuries. She wasn't dead. That was good. So they've got her mom in the hospital, and they tell her they want to pray over her. This is Bonnie and Jennifer.
Bonnie's mom.
Bonnie's the mom. Jennifer's the younger daughter. And they're at the hospital with the grandmother, Bonnie's mother.
Right.
So they start praying over her. And the mother, the grandmother, Bonnie's mother, starts saying her prayers, but starts saying it backwards. Now, I know, right? Now this could be just
impressive.
Huh?
That's impressive.
Start saying the prayers backwards. So she catches herself and she stops. And they said she was really confused and shocked. And she tried to correct it, but couldn't. Every time she tried to go to say a prayer, it started coming out backwards.
This could be a traumatic brain injury.
Could be a traumatic brain injury. And she could be old.
A wire got knocked loose in that.
Yeah,
car.
but even then, it's weird to go completely backwards.
She wasn't in the car wreck. It was the daughter.
Right, the daughter.
Oh.
The grandma is the one that had the
grandma has the
heart condition.
Undiagnosed previously.
Well, remember, my grandmother started spelling her. She'd be talking to you and spell it. And they thought she was having a stroke.
Yeah, to go backwards, though.
I don't think she was going. I can't remember.
And I can see word salad.
Right. But actually
they mix
saying
words up.
The real words all the way backwards. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. So.
Saying the words in the prayer backwards, or saying the words themselves backwards?
I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm going to assume that it's in reverse order, and not actually backwards. Not actually flipping the words.
Yeah, like heaven, art.
Not like taking
Father be. I can't do it.
Not like taking the stairway to heaven and sticking it on there and spinning it back.
Satan.
Yeah, heaven to stairway.
Yeah.
Hairway to Stephen.
Yeah, right.
It's a Butthole Surfers album.
Okay, so Bonnie's kind of freaked out about her mother, so she calls the chaplain at the hospital and asks him to pray over her and over the mother.
it in forward, not reverse.
Yeah, it was his choice, I guess. Neither choice.
If he could do Latin backwards,
amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Something suspicious going on there.
So 2 days later, the exorcist shows up because it was Christmas Eve that all this is taking place. The Christmas Eve, that's when the exorcist is going to be there. So he shows up. As soon as he steps foot in the house, he was obviously feeling the oppression from this thing. And so anyway, since an entity, I always say entity instead of entity. I don't know why I do that.
Little cockney.
Entity. Yeah, I want to say it wrong every time. Since an entity...
You look at me funny when I say bold or old or...
Well, I know, because I actually think there's more than one syllable in all of those things.
Put some oil on your starting coil.
No, oil, coil.
Put some oil on your starting
coil. So...
You also say figure.
Well, how else you going to figure it out?
It's a figure.
No, you got to figure
Unless you figure it.
You got to figure out how to talk right.
Don't get all uppity on us.
I'll start talking backwards. Hang on.
Don't get uppity on us.
To get offended.
I see you in the morning without makeup. Don't do that.
Talk about being offended.
She's not Texas.
Right.
I am Texas born.
She is, but she's been everywhere. She picked up some of that Yankeeism.
I was born in Temple.
Okay, back to the story. Y'all are getting me all over the place. Okay, so the priest goes into the house, and the entity can dwell in a place, but it can't take possession of it.
Just people.
Right. Okay. So that's why I asked that when you said that. I said you can't.
So
you can.
It can
bless the place.
It can stay in a vessel, but it can't live in that house vessel.
Right.
Has to have a person. It needs a living vessel. So the priest is going to try this risky strategy to rid the home once for all. He decides to use Lee, the medium, as bait, live bait, if you will. And he's going to try to attempt to draw the demon into her and then cast it out.
That's irresponsible.
That's awful.
Hey,
but this was
it makes for a great story.
Yeah, but this was actually sanctioned by.
I don't know. Well, it was the archdiocese, and this is I don't know that they've tried this before.
Don't you have to get permission from Rome?
Yeah.
In modern time to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do now. I know.
From Russell Crowe.
The Pope's exorcist. So anyway, that's his plan. So they take Lee and they restrain her to protect her from herself.
Of course.
And to protect everyone else from her. They open up all the windows in the house, and they're going to try to cleanse the home first of any and all negative energy. So he goes through once again. Well, I guess this is a different priest because this is the exorcist. And so the exorcist is going through the house and he's blessing the house. And the very last room to be blessed is the living room. And this is in an effort to literally piss the demon off.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not going to do anything to it, so, other than piss it off. So they're going to get the demon to the last room in the house where Lee is and to piss it off. They were successful. Lee had fallen into a deep trance while the exorcist had been around blessing the house, and upon him stepping back into the room, she began to hiss and scream and an unearthly growl. And so then the exorcism...
Nay, demon, nay.
The exorcism begins. I was reading on I read several accounts on this, but one of them, it was talking about how it sounded like there were two voices speaking at one time. And not just, I can act like I have a growl or something. Any can do it. I'm possessed, But no, this was two voices, like an echo reverb type thing.
Wrong priest.
Hey, right.
Wrong.
Bring me the priest.
So she has this unearthly growl and this scream, and the battle of wheels begin. And concluding the exorcism, the priest places a blessed crucifix upon Lee's forehead. So they've gone through hours of this. And she lets out a gasp that sounds like two people speaking. Yeah, this two people speaking all at once, and then she goes limp. Suddenly, she glances back up at the priest with a sinister grin on her face. The sound of splintering wood can be heard. She breaks the legs off the chair that she is restrained to and lunges at the priest, hissing and screaming at the top of her lungs. She's placed back in, or onto the floor, I guess. They're holding her. She lets out one more horrific scream, and at that point, everything just kind of washes clean. And all the feeling of the pressure and the being watched, the oppressiveness that they're feeling just gets lifted away, and it's gone. So the exorcism was successful.
Into her?
No, she became possessed. He cast the demon out of her.
Okay, he did
this
cast
is kind of like...
but now, when a demon is cast out, it goes back to hell. It doesn't just jump out of her and go into the...
Oh, no,
I
saw it on Supernatural. The smoke goes right into another person,
I would base my theories on something a little more than supernatural. You might want to...
This is very similar to the Exorcist plan of sucking the demon into you and then jumping out the window.
Mm-hmm.
About to say, yeah.
Which never really happened.
Didn't happen either, but
just in the movie.
So anyway, after that, life went back to normal for the Beckwiths. Guess how long it lasted?
A day.
5 years.
Actually, it lasted a little longer than that, but...
How long?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't actually know, but I know it wasn't the next day. Because they had peace in the house until, get this, the home across the street was being restored.
I didn't see anything across the street.
And remodeled.
In the street.
I didn't either.
All I saw was
But we
woods.
couldn't find the address. That was the wrong address. Remember when we looked up at Google Maps? It was not the right address. So I don't know where exactly it was. But as excavators dug into the earth around the home, this is the one across the street, guess what they find? Numerous human bones, and it is believed that they disturbed an ancient Native American burial ground.
That's easy enough to fix. You call in some Pequot elders. You go down to the casino. You get the chief, and you come down and you have them bless it. And you do it. I mean,
okay.
You can actually bring the tribe itself in on the fixing there of the problem.
So following this accidental exhumation, the family, guess what happens to them? They begin to experience paranormal events again within their home. Nothing like before, and they said they knew how to deal with it. It wasn't, they weren't being oppressed.
Threatened.
Right.
They weren't being oppressed by the demonic. This was just old,
do they
old
still
Native
live
Americans
in this
walking
house?
around.
Is that their Honda Accord I saw parked out front?
Honestly, from what I've read, it's been sold several times over.
What about people that have lived there since then? Any
reports?
I don't recall seeing anything about that. So
there may have been some native spirits in you. It was relatively easy to deal as long as you treat the remains with respect.
Yeah, I mean,
they'll leave you alone.
Well,
ish.
I just love these things with Ed and Lorraine Warren because it's always a demon.
Always. Every single time.
It's kind of like somebody else.
Well, that's not always demons. Sometimes it's just dead family members and stuff in the house. But right, Zach, right. But
attack.
With Ed and it's not always. Look, I've seen every single episode.
Okay, I haven't. I got to be honest, I haven't.
26 seasons It's not always demon. Sometimes it's just the gunslinger that was murdered in the saloon, or
See, was he just sucking up to Zach?
Yeah, he was.
I thought he was.
Totally
Were you just sucking up to Zach?
I felt that in my bones.
You don't want to get canceled?
I wasn't sucking up to.
Oh, well, I've seen every episode, and it's not always demons. It's nearly always demons.
Well,
he's always affected, and
but it's not always him that's affected. Sometimes it's Aaron.
But tell me one time the Warrens have not found a demon in a house.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't,
because I've never heard of them saying the Warrens went and investigated, and they said, "Oh, this person's just nuts. This is nothing in this house."
There's always
been plenty of people that have said that about the Warrens.
Right. I mean, I hate this because they're like kind of
they're like the Godfather and Godmother of
them and what's the other guy? I can't remember his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Still, at some point, if you're a if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right.
If you're a demonologist,
everything looks like a demon.
Right.
I agree. If you go to a paranormal investigation, you might see a ghost, you might not. But if you go ghost hunting, you're going to find a ghost. I agree.
Yeah, but you can find a ghost.
I'm agreeing with you. I agree.
You can find a ghost, but that ghost, it's like when we went to that place, I didn't ever sense anything evil in there or anything at all.
No.
Definitely there was something over in that corner.
And there was something in that corner.
But it wasn't evil.
There were, we called EVPs and that couple of really...
It said, "Don't be scared."
It
don't
did.
Be scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be
says
scared.
That. It wasn't scared.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Be scared. So I think this is a really good story, but
I've never heard about this one.
The Hell House one.
The whole bit with them sleeping in the living room and the two investigators staying at the house in the kitchen and some stuff happening. It sounds like one of the Conjuring films, but those all kind of blend together after a while.
The Snedekers, they did the same thing. They had investigators that stayed there. They all slept in the living room.
Well, that's a haunting in Connecticut, the film Haunting Connecticut, which is not part of the Conjuring universe.
Yeah.
It's not part of the Ed and Lorraine Warren film universe.
But it was Ed and Lorraine that actually conducted the investigation and the exorcism there. Because remember, that was the kid that had cancer.
Yeah, they might have combined some stories in the films.
You mean taking artistic license?
Taking some artistic license.
I bet they did.
Like the real Ed Warren looks nothing like Patrick Wilson, and the real Lorraine looked nothing like Vera from Motor.
Do you know what's funny though? So when all these started, Vera, I wonder if Lorraine, when they went to get permission from Lorraine,
she's like, "You can play me.
I want that real pretty boy."
I want me to be played by that Vera Vermiglio. That hot
Vera who?
I can't say her last name.
Apparently not.
Too many. She is
Vera.
She's beautiful though.
It make me think of that. That movie where
her last name sounds like a pasta, like a special pasta that only like certain nonas in Sicily know how to hand make.
Nonas.
John's like what's his name in Army of Dead. Was that Army of Darkness?
Army of Darkness?
Like Army of Darkness. Army of the Ash, yeah. John's over there. Klaatu Verata. There, I've said the words. Vera.
I know you're looking it up. We'll get the syllables right.
Yes. No, Vera. I was going to leave you alone.
Now, I have to correct myself. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know how you say her name. So what do y'all think? You think
it was The Conjuring?
So what do we think about Ed and Lorraine as a rule?
For Maggie? For
Farmiga.
Farmiga?
Vera Farmiga.
He's got to put that in there.
He gets Italiano.
You sound like one of the Google how to pronounce it.
Pantoprazole.
So, what do we think about the Warrens as a whole? You think they were legit?
I do in some
really
instances.
Do.
Yes, I really do.
Here's what I think. I believe the Warrens believe
that they're real.
That's what I believe. I believe the Warrens believe. And I have encountered enough on my own to know even what I've experienced. with stuff flying across the room at me and things like that. I know that there are things out there that have the ability, whether you want to call them demons, you want to call them jinn, evil spirits, whatever, that have the ability to grab objects and chunk them across the room. So probably there's some more out there that are strong enough to pick up a bed and shake it.
Wouldn't they also be strong enough to say, "Get out," without having to go through a psychic medium to automatically write it?
I don't know the rules. I don't think anybody does.
And this is 1998, right?
98. Mm-hmm.
You had handheld recorders that could be doing EVPs and stuff. I'm going to buy that first before I buy, I am possessed by get out of my house from the medium, you know? Mm-hmm. If I hear a voice that wasn't there when it was read, that's much more convincing.
I guess there's part of me that I want to know, like, what made them legit? Like, all of a sudden, why are they so, because he's some demonologist, which I need to read up on, because to me
Amityville was their...
Right, that
was that their breakout, though?
Or there was that one in England.
In Twistle,
was it the Enfield thing?
Enfield, yeah. Enfield haunting.
Yeah, but I don't know. It seems like though after
these guys had toured all over the world and
been on the TV shows.
Yeah, I mean,
but I'm just saying, like, what made them such a? Which, I mean, maybe that's just if we could go down that, I guess, that whole history of just Ed and Lorraine Warren. Well,
they had been at it for a long time. So here's the thing. We all believe, sitting at this table, that there are things out there that we don't understand.
Sure.
And we can't explain. Right? So all of us have encountered things that we can't explain. You know, and we don't truly know what they are.
I don't try to frame it in a Catholic dogma.
No.
You know, this is a demon, a servant of
but
Satan or something.
we all have limited experience in, seeking out these things.
I was just going to say, this is an unpleasant entity that was banging the walls, right?
Yeah, so we've all had experiences but we've had limited experiences. These are people that lived and breathed, and their everyday life revolved around chasing down demons and spirits and paranormal. Yes, exactly.
So apparently she was a medium, had always been considered that way. Mm-hmm. He's a self-taught demonologist,
right,
and a devout Catholic. And I think it was because they established the New England Society for Psychic Research, which is the oldest paranormal research organization in the country. They're credited for that. So therefore, that apparently made them legit. Now, that we could do a whole podcast on just them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like their history.
So, and here's my thought, though, that because we've accidentally stumbled across stuff, all of us, right?
Hauntings,
wrong house, wrong time.
Wrong house, wrong time. You walk up and the shutters are flapping on the side of the house, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I know whatever did that would have had the energy to say, "Get out!" in an audible voice.
I'm laying in bed and something bangs the ceiling. You're in a Civil War area where a prison had been, prison war camp, and you see legs walking out there.
Bangs the walls all the way around the bedroom, knocks painting off the wall.
So we've accidentally seen these things. These are people who have done this day in, day out for decades, literally 30 plus years when they got to this point. So I'm knowing what I've seen, knowing what you've seen and you've seen, and I know we've seen some stuff. Don't you think after 30 years of doing this day in and day out, they've probably really seen some stuff? They've probably really come across some spooky stuff.
Right. But I think also it's reflected through the lens of their devout Catholicism. And you could probably clear the house out with some sage and Palo Santo wood, and you could have a Wiccan come in there, a good white witch come in there and clean the house out.
Ain't no good witches, boy.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be somebody sent from the Vatican. Because if you accept that, then you accepted all the rest of that. That's right. True as well.
Like I say, demons.
I'd say there's good and bad
in everything.
Entities from wherever.
You have to have balance.
And
demons predate Christianity.
Absolutely. The word is Greek. And it's from daemon in Greek. And they were helpful and stuff in Greek mythology. They just turned all this stuff into bad stuff. Even Pazuzu was a protector of pregnant women in Babylonian.
John said the P word.
This stuff was only turned into bad stuff by
media
Christians. By early Christianity to convert pagans. Oh, your pagan gods are all evil demons, servants of the devil and stuff, and all.
And how much of it was that, and how much of it was all rewritten later.
Well, I mean, I think that
Catholicism became so
this
strong.
Stuff was
regardless if you want to go
before.
I mean, you can go down that rabbit hole, but to me, I mean, there's angels and demons in the Bible, regardless of where. They've been around.
Right, but this predates the Bible by thousands of years.
Right. So. No, I know, but I'm just saying for those that feel that way.
Yeah.
By the way, the Warrens got their ticket to fame with Annabelle.
Oh, Annabelle was the first
Annabelle started.
The Annabelle doll.
Annabelle started everything, and then we shoot off into paranormal superstardom.
You said shoot off.
Shoot off into paranormal superstardom.
And then, then they got the occult museum and all of those things.
Annabelle is the centerpiece of that museum.
Yes.
I, for one, enjoy their stories just because they're so interesting and they're interesting characters.
I mean, regardless of what they saw or claimed, these people that we've at least covered really were scared, and they were in something that were haunted, and these people
actually, like today, you would easily you could blanket that house in cameras, in wireless cameras, remote sensors, or motion sensors. There's all kinds of stuff you can set up nowadays that they didn't have.
Right.
Would you catch the bed shaking? Would you catch books flying? Or would you catch the activity now that they claim to have caught in? When you could put cameras everywhere and monitor everything 24/7.
Taps has caught stuff moving.
Right, but I've never seen...
Zach has caught stuff moving.
Yeah, but I've never seen books, like one after the other, flying off across the room and stuff like that. I've seen a chair move. I've seen a thing fall off of a bar. I've seen one little thing, like a very small amount of movement.
So I saw bed rails. I saw a clock fly off the wall at me.
I witnessed when...
You heard that banging thing around your room, yeah.
But also didn't have cameras going to catch it happen either. It seems like they get a little camera shy.
Maybe they do. It's like, who knows? Anyway.
We probably see full-bodied apparitions.
Sometimes I wonder if it drains their energy.
I don't know. Or maybe they get their energy from it. I don't know.
Well, they'll take the battery. They'll die.
Yeah, we've seen that happen. Oh, but I'm saying, but then you can't use it as proof once they drain the battery. So
that's right.
Just plug it all in.
I very much like that story.
I like that one. I think it's a good one.
It ends
It's very
well.
interesting. It does end well.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Whatever happened to Grandma?
She
probably
died.
That was 98. She was a grandmother in 98. She's probably dead by now.
But I'm saying she was fine. After she started talking backwards, like, we got better and we went back to the house.
I failed you in my research. I did not.
I'm just curious. No, I was just curious. We went there and all of a sudden, and then the other one got in a wreck, and then all of a sudden we forgot about Grandma because the priest came and cleared everything. So I just was curious.
Yeah, Grandma was a tangential part of that story.
No, I know. Well, the chaplain came and helped Grandma.
I will say that the neighborhood looks old and ancient and haunted. Those rock walls that were probably built in the 18th century.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Probably, or before in the 17th century. those probably date back to the Pequot Wars.
It's been a while.
Indians and all that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've diced and sliced that whenever way we can.
Definitely recommend the Scarabus.
Subscribe. If you're sitting here listening to the end of this, subscribe some more. Like us. Go to check us out in all of our places. And I'll throw up nice little pictures in the video so you can look at it there. Go to our website, paranormal-spirits.com.
Get you some swag.
You know what? Buy you some Scarabus.
Definitely recommend it if you're on the peaty Scotch train.
If you're into peaty Scotch, Islay single malt Scotch whiskey, Scarabus is good stuff.
Definitely good and affordable.
And it's affordable.
Yeah. It is compared to the other
ones.
Yeah, the silver, that's a good price.
Have a good night.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now you know what they're going to do as soon as they got their own vintage barrel.
Jack up the price by twice.
Oh, you think?
Oh yeah.
Because they're using other people's barrels.
Right, and here's what is interesting: Scarabus aged 10 years, so their age statement one is 10 years. Well, that narrows it down. I think that's Lafroig.
Did you?
It tastes like Lafroig 10 year.